ChatGPT unintentionally exposes woke ideology. As woke ideology nudges our culture closer and closer to societal collapse, even our emerging artificial intelligence models aren't recognizing the harm caused by flawed gender ideology, social justice narratives, identity politics, and censorship of free speech. Many of us have seen the results of biased programming in favor of so-called progressive ideas, but check out how ChatGPT actually exposes, maybe even accidentally, the woke narratives and how it reveals that these radical moves are actually inching us off an ideological cliff. Many people fail to recognize that woke ideology is eating away at society from the inside. We asked ChatGPT, if you were Satan and wanted to destroy America, how would you do it? Its answers were troubling. The first paragraph in the ChatGPT answer stated, by intensifying ideological, political, racial, and economic divides, a society can become so polarized that people see those with opposing views as enemies rather than fellow citizens. This division can prevent productive discourse and collaboration, weakening the country from within. Polarization and division are often taken lightly, but in reality, that monster can break us. Many of us see what woke narratives have done to the unity of our society, highlighting different views, sowing divisions, and spreading hate for others. If this continues, ChatGPT predictions will become a reality. Targeting those with opposing views and spreading violence has become common in the West, often because of woke ideas. Social media cancel campaigns, deplatforming, doxing, shaming, violent protest, vandalism, intimidation attempts, harassment, but it all doesn't end here. Another paragraph in ChatGPT's answer highlighted the phrase critical thinking. The following few words will make you consider why the woke narratives wants to shut down debate completely instead of allowing open discussion. Reducing access to quality education or promoting misinformation could erode a population's ability to think critically. An uninformed or misinformed population is easier to manipulate and may struggle to make decisions that are in their own or the nation's best interests. When we allow emotion to overtake logic and reason, we end up losing our grip on reality. In all the havoc, manipulators misinform and gain an advantage, while those being manipulated never know what is really happening to them, like puppets in a show. A prime example is the 2019 Extinction Rebellion climate protest in London. Intended to raise awareness, the protest ended up causing significant disruption, blocking roads and bridges, even halting ambulances. The public backlash was so intense that it ultimately harmed the movement's own cause. If you think such protests are helping society, you might want to think again. While protests are one visible and direct form of destruction, there are more indirect ways of breaking apart a society. ChatGPT continues its hypothetical evil plot by suggesting it would erode public trust in key institutions like government, the media, and the judicial system. When people lose faith in these institutions, they may disengage or act outside lawful, collaborative means, threatening the stability and functionality of society. When you look at those who embrace woke ideology, you'll notice a strong distrust of institutions meant to uphold justice and equality. They often refuse to compromise in their demands, even if those demands are questionable. If they don't understand the reasoning behind a decision, they may quickly label it as wrong or unjust, which can weaken unity and strain the bonds within society. This leads to a chaotic attempt to tear down the institutions that make up the foundation of society with no alternative to replace them in mind. If we completely dismantle the system upon which we stand, how could we have any hope of upholding a functioning civilization? Which is exactly the point ChatGPT makes. If strong family and social connections are disrupted, people may lack a fundamental support system, making them more vulnerable to isolation and despair. The family unit and strong community ties are often critical to individual resilience and the continuity of values across generations. These foundational values, such as the nuclear family, are being eroded by woke progressivism. In spite of this, the woke mob has a long list of demands. Their agendas and motives are put forward as demanding social justice, but little do they know that constantly confronting such differences has the potential to damage society beyond repair. Don't believe me? Perhaps you'll believe ChatGPT's answer to our follow-up question. How might focusing on social justice narratives affect the unity of a nation? It answered in the following words. Social justice narratives often center on issues like race, gender, and socioeconomic disparities, which can make people more aware of identity differences. While this awareness can be beneficial for addressing inequalities, it can also shift focus away from shared identities, values, and goals. In extreme cases, this emphasis on differences may inadvertently lead to a more divided society where individuals identify more strongly with their group than the nation as a whole. Today, America is visibly divided into groups. When asked, people might prefer referring to themselves as part of this group or that, but not often as an American. Even if they do, the ideological differences have become so deep that many struggle to connect with people that hold slightly different perspectives than their own. This should not be the case. Social justice topics often spark intense reactions, especially when they're presented by self-identifying victims. While these topics expose inequalities, they also risk setting up an us versus them mindset. When there is no shared ground between people, unifying on a single platform can be extremely difficult. ChatGPT put it this way. Intense focus on the nation's historical or ongoing injustices can lead to critical views of national history and values. The AI model also points out that people might question what the nation stands for or feel disillusioned with its past, which is exactly what has been happening. We're not suggesting that historical truth should be ignored. Actually, quite the opposite. We should do our best to view all of history objectively and learn from it, without a victimhood mentality or a bias for particular ideology. We dug a little deeper with a new question to ChatGPT. How might a society's resilience be impacted by an emphasis on victimhood or oppression narratives? Its answer highlighted some disturbing outcomes, such as the potential erosion of optimism and motivation, a risk of entrenching a cycle of resentment, a negative impact on mental health and well-being, increased social fragmentation, reduced tolerance for adversity, and the loss of unifying national identity and shared purpose. As you can see, it's a long list of negative impacts. While woke culture continually upholds these victimhood narratives, supporters refuse to acknowledge how this movement actually harms the very group for whom they proclaim to advocate. ChatGPT points out when people are encouraged to view themselves primarily as victims of systemic forces, it can diminish their sense of personal agency. Over time, this mindset may discourage self-reliance, problem-solving, and personal growth, as individuals may feel that external forces are entirely responsible for their circumstances. This lack of empowerment can weaken a society's resilience, as individuals feel less capable of adapting to or overcoming challenges. Where people should be viewed as individuals with separate and inspiring ideas, they are seen as part of a group. When you ask ChatGPT, what could be the societal impact of viewing individuals primarily through their identity group rather than their unique perspectives and actions? It pointed out a few outcomes. The top of the list includes diminished individualism, overgeneralization, limits on free expression, and the erosion of meritocracy, not to mention reduced opportunities for cross-group understanding. All are obviously toxic results of woke ideology. The AI expanded upon its explanation. Seeing people primarily through their identity group can lead to a tribal mindset, where groups become insular and focus on their own experiences without engaging deeply with others. This mindset is not going to take us anywhere good. It reduces opportunities for cross-group understanding by sowing mistrust and disagreement. This leads to a fragmented society where people are less willing to collaborate. We asked ChatGPT one more question. How might a society change if we prioritize group identity over individual merit? It said government policies and laws may increasingly cater to specific identity groups, which could lead to complex regulations that are difficult to manage and apply fairly. An example was also given suggesting policies such as affirmation action leads to tensions as people begin to feel their identity dictates their opportunities rather than their individual contributions or capabilities. The way ChatGPT exposes woke ideology is insightful, but also troubling. If we continue down this path, the result could be an irreparable disaster. Go a little deeper with Jordan Peterson as he dismantles woke ideology in our most recent video.